how do you prepare for an interview quickly? So hopefully you have more time than just quickly. And like, if you don't, I mean, I've been there too before. I feel like there are definitely times where there's not enough time to prepare, or you're getting out of a work thing and you have to go to this other thing. And like, there are definitely times where you got to be quick. The first thing I would say is, I guess these also apply if you're trying to prepare for an interview quickly or you have time. Like, this kind of works for both. Read up on the company. Like, make sure you know what the company is doing, what their goals are, what they've been doing, what they actually do in general. Like, read up on the company. That's kind of number one. Number two, I would say read up on the person interviewing you. So just like do a quick stalk of their LinkedIn. Check out their previous experiences, what they've done, where they went to college, what they do at the company, know what their role is and their title is and what that role actually does or kind of functions as. That's like a great place to start. If you know both of those things, like, you're pretty prepared. The other things I would say are to know the competition or like the competitive landscape of the company. So if you're applying for a company like Apple, like knowing for, I don't know, actually, I don't know like other competitors, like knowing all of the competitors of the company is a great way to start out. Like, that's a good headspace to be in. Just like, you really understand the industry as a whole and who they're up against and what the people in that industry are doing and who's doing it well is another good thing. I would say that's kind of like number 3 or 4, is to know somebody in the industry or in that landscape doing what they do really well. So having an example, like, I feel like a question that a lot of interviews ask is like, what's an example of somebody doing this really well right now? Or like, who do you look to, knowing a current event as well? Like, who do you look to as somebody doing really well in this industry, or kind of making breakthroughs or doing a great job? So knowing that, I think, knowing a current event or like knowing what's happening in the world in general is always a good thing. Like, just like a super quick, like, scan of news today or like news right now. Obviously, if there's something that applies to what you're applying to, applies. Both different meanings, both worked well. Thank you. Obviously, like, if there's something that's applying to what the position that you're going for, then talking about that will make you stand out. That will be like a great thing to do. That's probably like it on the company, the industry, the landscape, all of that. Knowing a few of those things, like the company, the people, the person who's interviewing you or the people who are interviewing you, and like some competitors or who's doing it well, I would say like those are the big things I would prepare for going into an interview, because you can bring them up at any time or like kind of weave them into a question. And that's impressive. Like, if somebody did that and I was interviewing them, and I'd be like, oh, wow, like they've done their research. They've looked shit up. They've actually spent the time, even if you're doing it quickly, like they've obviously spent the time to do this. They took the time out of their day to like prepare for this interview, and that sets you apart. The other things I would say to do are, on your own side, know what you're really good at. Like, know what you can bring to the table and what you can do to bring value to this company. What you could really like work on, or what you aspire to, or what you're aspiring for, like what you want out of this role. Preparing the kind of 1 or 2 best things you've done in your current job or you've done so far, whether you're still in college. Like, what are the impressive things you can point out about yourself that you can kind of like weave into any question they ask? I know a lot of people prepare to be like, what are your 3 strengths and your 3 weaknesses? Like, I think it is important to have like your strength, but that can be like something you've worked on too, or like something that you've proven that you're good at. And then like a weakness, you always want to transform from like something you're actually not good at to something that, like, you never want the weakness to be something you're actually not good at, because then you don't want to like point something out you're not good at, if that makes any sense. The weakness is a trick question. So whatever weakness you prepare, like, make sure it's not actually a weakness and it's something that like you could continue to improve on. Like, that's the best way to do that. Like, something you've already worked on maybe in your current job. Like, well, I started off in my last job like not actually really knowing how to do this thing, and through these few projects, I've gotten really good at it, but that's always something I'm working toward. Like that's always something I want to get better at. So I'd say that's something like is I guess a weakness, you could say. Like that's a good way to frame it or reframe that type of question. Preparing those couple things, and just like how to spin any of your experiences. Like pick one experience that you've had, whether it's a project, whether it's something you spearheaded yourself, like something you created and started yourself, something you worked on, like whatever it is, make sure you have at least one of those that you can talk about in depth. Also, yeah, you obviously never want to go on too long about something, but like in depth meaning like you can talk about like how you fully added value in it or to it from here to here and like what you could bring to that company. Also, making sure you're asking a question or two at the end. I think a really great question to ask somebody is, what is a project or something that you're working on right now that you love or that you're looking forward to or you're excited about? That is a great way for someone to be like, wow, because realistically, they're in the job right now, right? Like 30 minutes before your interview, they were actually working on the work. And 30 minutes after your interview, they're also going back to do the work. So letting them talk about what they're actually working on will give you a really good sense of what they actually do, and it will also let them like talk to you honestly and openly about the company, and it gives you a great understanding, and they think it's a great question. So ask somebody like, what's a project or something you're working on right now that you're really excited about? Great question. You could also ask them, I think another great question, like you could just take these two and run, by the way. I think then another great question is like, how could I be successful in this role? Like, what could I do in this role to be successful? Or like, what could I do to set myself up for success in this role? Fantastic question. Like, both of those questions are perfect. I don't think you need to say anything else. Of course, at the end of the interview, you should also say like, I'd love to follow up about next steps. And then after the interview, you should send a thank you email and point to something in the interview that you really liked, like highlight a moment. And why that question is so great at the end to ask them about a project or something or initiative that they're excited about, that they're looking forward to. That is something that you can directly point to in your email. Like this is seriously a crash course on, like this is something that like I've learned over time, but I think it's a crash course on what to do for interviewing. And maybe I should make a full episode on how to interview. I think I've done it before, but I could do it again. You should use whatever they said, like the example that they gave, the project they're working on, and say like, I really loved learning about this. Like, I really appreciated how you explained how you're working on this, or I really appreciated you explaining this project to me. It sounds really cool, and I'd love the opportunity to work on it. That type of thing. Bang. Like, fucking bang. So send that thank you email, send the follow-up. And that's how you prepare for an interview quickly. That is your like 5-minute, 6-minute how to prepare for an interview. I hope it wasn't as longer than that. The next question is, how much should you be texting when you first start seeing someone?